Inaugural event of the Capacity Building Workshop on the Intangible Cultural Heritage of India and the celebration of the inscription of the Durga Puja in Kolkata on the representative list of ICH of Humanity, UNESCO. The workshop has been organized by Sangeet Natak Akademi, India's National Academy of Music, Dance, and Drama, which is the ICH nodal agency in collaboration with the National Museum Institute and the National Museum, New Delhi. We are honored by the presence of Dr. Tim Curtis, Secretary of UNESCO's 2003 Convention on the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. Mr. Eric Falt, Director and UNESCO representative to Bhutan, India, Maldives, and Sri Lanka. A very warm welcome. And also a very warm welcome to Ms. Lily Pandya, Joint Secretary, UNESCO, Ministry of Culture, Government of India. The non material manifestations of culture expressed in the forms of practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, skills, as well as the instruments, objects, artifacts, and cultural spaces that people distinguish as an essential component of their cultural heritage make up the intangible cultural heritage, or ICH. Transmitted through generations and constantly recreated, it reflects the variety of living heritage and cultural diversity. In order to ensure this sense of identity and continuity that it signifies and significantly provides to the associated groups or communities, the 2003 UNESCO Convention on the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage was adopted. As a nation that comprises of diverse cultural expressions, India also ratified to this convention in 2005, and since then has been actively functioning towards the safeguarding and preserving of the intangible cultural heritage of India. Recently, India has been elected as a member of the Intergovernmental Committee of UNESCO's 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of ICH. With the inscription of Durga Puja in Kolkata in 2021, India now proudly 14 elements on the representative list of ICH of humanity. In our tradition, we begin every auspicious occasion by lighting the traditional lamp. I request our special guests here to do the honors. Mr. Tim Curtis, Mr. Eric Falt, and Ms. Lily Pandya, kindly come to the stage, please. Namaskar. Lighting of the lamp. Lighting of the lamp has special significance for us in India. So thank you for doing the honors. May I now request Sri Arvind Kumar, Director, UNESCO, Ministry of Culture, to welcome the guests. This also in our traditional manner. Thank you so much, Mr. Arvind Kumar. May I now request Ms. Lily Pandya, Joint Secretary, UNESCO, to give the inaugural address. Ms. Lily Pandya, Joint Secretary, UNESCO, is the Director General of the National Museum and the Vice uh, Chancellor of the National Museum Institute. In her current assignment, she's in charge of museums, IGNCA, and UNESCO matters related with ICH.
Thank you. And ICR.
And
So-
ICH.
So good afternoon and many greetings to you. Mr. Eric Falt, Director, UNESCO India Office, New Delhi. Mr. Tim Curtis, Secretary, Convention for the Safeguarding of ICH UNESCO. Ms. Ritu Sethi, Ms. Shikha Jain, Ms. Manvi Seth, Dean, National Museum Institute. Juni has just joined us. Arvind Kumar, Director, UNESCO, Ministry of Culture. Colleagues from Ministry of External Affairs. Sangeet Natak Academy, our nodal agency for intangible cultural heritage. My colleagues from National Museum and National Museum Institute. Our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. We have gathered here today, and of course, Nabasin ma'am, our PIB. We have gathered here today to celebrate the successful inscription of Durga Puja of Kolkata in the representative list of ICH of Humanity in 2021, to launch the two-day capacity building national workshop on intangible cultural heritage, and meet and greet our friends from UNESCO. I am honored to be in your midst to celebrate and showcase the diverse expressions of intangible India. India is a sum of its parts and much more, represented through ideas, practices, beliefs, indigenous traditional knowledge systems, and values shared by its myriad communities. India is a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society, conscious of the UNESCO ICH commitment to Sustainable Development Goals, specifically the 17 goals related to climate change, partnership, responsible consumption and production, reduction of inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, among others. This year, we march into the 75th year of our independence, and we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. It is a national commemoration of the glorious history of our culture, people, and achievements. The resilience and cohesion of our communities is strongly linked with our cultural legacy. The arts and cultural and creative industries are drivers and continue to be the drivers of our present day innovations. The recent inscription of Durga Puja of Kolkata as the 14th element from India on the representative list of ICH of Humanity also makes this event a significant platform for celebrating this honor, accomplishment, recognition. The 10-day celebration of Durga Puja, which will start from the last week of the next month, and which celebrates the feminine Shakti power, upholds the spirit of community, and encapsulates the dynamic cultural expressions in the form of folk music, culinary, craft, and performing arts traditions. As the event is organized in the backdrop of UNESCO's 2003 Convention on the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage, I would also like to draw your attention to the time-tested friendship between India and UNESCO. Having ratified the Constitution of UNESCO in 1946, India is proud to be one of its earliest member states. Throughout our association with UNESCO, which is almost as long as the history of our independent nation, India has continued to strengthen harmony between the different ideologies and cultures of all its member states. Today, India is a member of almost all of the UNESCO's cultural conventions and programs. With 40 UNESCO World Heritage intangible cultural heritage elements inscribed on the tentative list, the latest being Durga Puja of Kolkata, 9 documentary heritage elements recognized in the International Memory of the World Register, and 6 creative cities, India continues to strengthen the intercultural dialogue among nations. At the national level, India has a strong mechanism in place to sustainably safeguard its heritage and regularly facilitates a democratic participation of all its stakeholders in the processes. At the international level, India is determined to strengthen its efforts to safeguard the intangible heritage of humanity. Sangeet Natak Akademi, an autonomous organization under the Ministry of Culture, has been appointed as the nodal agency for the ICH matters, such as maintaining the national inventory, preparation of nomination dossiers, and so on. Since 2013-14, Ministry of Culture has also been running a scheme titled Scheme for Safeguarding the Intangible Cultural Heritage and Diverse Cultural Traditions of India, with the objective of professionally enhancing awareness and interest in intangible cultural heritage and safeguarding, promoting, and propagating it systematically. Financial assistance is provided for the activities relating to intangible cultural heritage, diverse cultural traditions of India. This 2-day capacity building national workshop comes in the wake of our recent election into the Intergovernmental Committee of the 2003 Convention. And it reflects our commitment to further the 4 aims of UNESCO ICH Convention, that is, to safeguard the intangible cultural heritage, to ensure respect for the intangible cultural heritage of the communities, groups, and individuals concerned, to raise awareness at the local, national, and international levels of the importance of intangible cultural heritage and of ensuring mutual appreciation thereof, and to provide for international cooperation and assistance. Preparing a roadmap for extensive ICH training programs at various levels of professionals, academicians, and others is a priority for Ministry of Culture. The aim of the workshop is to raise awareness levels about ICH and devise a mechanism for systematic documentation, preparation of dossiers, and academic research. Speakers and experts conducting the workshop are a mix of academicians, experts, and practitioners. The mode of workshop will be participatory, with each session having 3 components: theory about ICH, documented case study of ICH, and an activity demonstrating the actual process of ICH documentation, dossier preparation. Participants of the workshop are a mix of professionals, students, and researchers and community stakeholders, and we hope to create a format for ICH awareness among communities across the length and breadth of India. Today's inauguration essentially kickstarts a year-long series of ICH capacity building workshops and other ICH-related activities, programs, and festivals. We eagerly look forward to listening to Mr. Eric Falt and Mr. Tim Curtis. Wishing all the participants of this workshop all the very best. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Ladies and gentlemen, since May 2018, Mr. Eric Falt has served as the Director and UNESCO representative for the UNESCO New Delhi office, which covers Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, the Maldives, and Sri Lanka. May I now request Mr. Eric Falt, Director, New Delhi Cluster Office, to kindly address the audience.
Thank you very much. Dear Lily, dear friends, it really gives me great pleasure to be with all of you today for this celebration of the inscription of the Durga Puja on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This is very important, I think, to bring together all of the stakeholders and different groups who are involved in such nominations. And I think today in this workshop in particular is a wonderful example of the way things should be done. So big congratulations to you, Lily, to the Ministry of Culture, and the many others who have been involved. It's not too late also to congratulate you for the election indeed on the committee, which is going to be meeting later this year in Morocco. I will actually see you there because it's the end of my assignment in India after 4.5 years. I'll be moving to Morocco, but I'll have a chance to see Lily and others, hopefully for the next inscription. But I don't want to say more than that. That doesn't really have anything to do with me, but I will be with you. Over the last half years, I think we have seen how the visibility of intangible cultural heritage has risen, thanks to the efforts of the Ministry of Culture, but also all of the stakeholders. That's really my main message today, is that the convention, the 2003 Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, perhaps more than any other UNESCO convention, is about bringing communities to the fore with the help of all concerned. We at UNESCO are an intergovernmental organization, so we work first and foremost with governments. And of course, here in India, very closely with the government of India. And I really want to give credit to the efforts of all those who have been involved to underline and stress the importance of all these traditions. I often say that India offers more intangible cultural heritage practices probably than any other country in the world. Many of them are in need of safeguarding. So it's, of course, all of you are involved one way or the other. Here I want to stress the importance of civil society organizations, and I know that there are many in the room. Without their dedication, without their passion, we would not have been able, through the government of India, to have all these inscriptions. Of all of the recent inscriptions, what better exemplifies the involvement of all these stakeholders than the Durga Puja? Durga Puja is celebrated at all levels, at the very grassroots level, and by many other people. It's a wonderful celebration, and we are at UNESCO very proud that it was recently inscribed. So thank you again for organizing this celebration here in New Delhi. It's important to have others involved, and here I want to mention that I'm grateful also to all of the other partners who have worked with us in the past few years to raise the importance and visibility of intangible cultural heritage. As you may know, we have worked, for instance, with the tourism industry, which I think needs to be better cognizant and aware of the difference it can make to show tourists not just monuments, the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, but also give them a flavor, introduce them to what are all these amazing intangible cultural heritage practices that India offers. Often tourists don't have a chance to be exposed to this. And in this regard, I want to mention the partnership that we created with IHCL, the Taj group of hotels and other hotels, with whom we have started to showcase ICH practices around the country. Some of you, I'm sure many of you, know that earlier this week, we also launched a very groundbreaking and novel partnership with Royal Enfield, the motorcycle company, to try to see how to bring to light also the wonderful ICH practices of the Himalayas. And we are hoping to start next month with a spotlight on the Northeast. I think it's very important also to be able to look at all of the regions. India has so much to offer in this regard. So I don't want to speak too long. I just want to say again, thank you for organizing this workshop. It's very important to bring people together, all of the stakeholders together. Sometimes we don't have a chance, or we don't have enough fora at the national level to come together. And I think this will make a difference. I want to perhaps also use this opportunity to mention that next month we'll also have an intangible cultural heritage event at the regional level that we'll organize in Udaipur, bringing a number of representatives from various countries of the region together to reflect at the regional level about the importance of ICH. So I think with all this awareness raising, with all this mobilization under the leadership of the Ministry of Culture, ICH has a very bright future, and all of the practices, the traditional practices that we know India has to offer, will continue to exist for many years and not just be safeguarded, but shine a light in India and around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. India does have a very bright future with ICH, as does ICH in the entire world. We will now come to the special part of this program, which is a presentation of a dance form to celebrate the inscription of Durga Puja in Kolkata. But before that, I request the guests to take their seats on the front row, please. So as we celebrate with great pride the inscription of Durga Puja in Kolkata, India now proudly has 14 elements on the representative list of ICH of Humanity. We need just a few moments to change our setup. Kindly bear with us. And then I'll hand you over to the artist who's going to introduce this program to you.
বাবা সেটআপটা করছে, এদিকটা চলে আসো, এদিকে চলে আসো। তো একটা প্ল্যান फटाफट।
So I'll introduce you.
to pull it on. Right. Let them just need a setup first. Okay, फिर आप बोलिए तो नाम लिखो। तो जो आप पैसे के बाहर निकल के बोलेंगे। ठीक है।
Ladies and gentlemen, we now present the dance ballet Devi Rising, and to tell you more about this dance ballet, I now introduce you to Ms. Gauri Basu.
Thank you very much. And welcome to this evening's presentation, Devi Rising. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matri Rupeno Sangsthita. Namastasai, 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 Namo Namaha. Utsav in Bengal is synonymous with Durga Puja. From end September, the white fields of Kash flowers and the clear blue skies of Sharad send out their invitation to Bengal's most celebrated daughter, who visits her earthly abode just once in the year. Her homecoming is not just a festival, it is a celebration of our traditions, our customs, and our culture. Amidst the soft caress of the autumn breeze and the mesmerizing fragrance of the shiuli flowers, Devi Ma enters in all her resplendent glory. Her visit is not just a celebration, and this celebration is accompanied by the sounds of the dak. And these sounds of the dak also capture the many moods of the Devi, frenzied, calm, plaintive, and nostalgic. Durga is not just the mother goddess. She is the symbol of Shakti. She is the symbol of the triumph of good over destructive evil. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupeno Sangsthita. Namastasai, 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 Namo Namaha. This year, the celebration of Durga Puja is very special because it has been inscribed in the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The traditional craftspersons, the traditional artisans, and the traditional designers all come together to create the ambience where we can welcome the Devi. But it is a festival which everyone enjoys irrespective of their cultural, social, or religious beliefs. Folk music, performing art traditions, delicacies from Bengal's rich culinary repertoire add to the dynamism of the festival. Durga Puja, as I've already said, is not just a celebration. It signifies an overwhelming wave of devotion which carries with it the devotees and the revelers alike. As we get ready this year to worship Durgati Nashini, the remover of all evil, let us pray for peace and brotherhood in this world. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupeno Sangsthita. Namastasai, 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 Namo Namaha. Ladies and gentlemen, we present Devi Rising, choreographed by Sharmila Bishash.
महामाया त्रिपुरा महादेवी दुर्गतिहारिणी कालरात्रि चैतन्यकारिणी गुणत्रय विभाविनी दयामयी कृपामयी विश्वेश्वरी महासूरी जगद्धात्री सौम्या सनातनी भगवती नित्या परमेश्वरी ब्रह्ममयी जय मां जय मां जय मां। नमो देव्यै नमो महादेव्यै महादेव्यै शिवायै सततं नमः 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 प्रकृत्यै भद्रायै नियता प्रणतः स्मतां रौद्रायै नमो नित्यायै गौर्यै धात्र्यै नमो नमः ज्योत्स्नायै चेन्दुरूपिण्यै सुखायै सततं नमः अति सौम्यातिरौद्रायै नतास्तस्यै नमो नमः नमो जगत्प्रतिष्ठायै देव्यै कृत्यै नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु विष्णुमायेति शब्दिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु चेतनति अभिधीयते नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु बुद्धिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु निद्रारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु क्षुधारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु तृष्णारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लज्जारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु लक्ष्मीरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु दयारूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु तुष्टिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु मातृरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः इन्द्रियाणामधिष्ठात्री भूतानां चाखिलेषु या भूतेषु सततगतस्यै व्याप्तिदिव्यै नमो नमः चितिरूपेण या कृष्णमेतद्व्याप्य स्थिता जगत् नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः या देवी सर्वभूतेषु 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 या देवी सर्वभूतेषु
জুহার গো মা
গোকরালে
জগত
জননী
সহায়ে থিবু মাগো ত্রিশূল ধারি
হারিণী
মা তোর পাদে করু মাগো মা
Jargijan, Gijaginija, Jargijan, Kitty Kitty Ta, Jargijan, Gijaginija, Jargijan, Kitty Kitty Ta.
ভারত তারিণী গো অষ্ট উদয়া ভারতে যে চিনতে থাকু তোর দয়া ভারত তারিণী গো অষ্ট উদয়া ভারতে যে চিনতে থাকু তোর দয়া ভারতে কে অছিম বিনু গোমা ভারতে কে অছিম বিনু গোমা আদি অন্নপূর্ণামা তাহা তু জানু কার্যকারিণী দুরিত খণ্ডিনী সত্যদলিনী কালিকা সিংহবাহিনী পদ্মওয়াসিনী পদ্মখণ্ডিনী শোভিতা ভালে সিন্দুর মুখ সুন্দর গুণ গম্ভীর অম্বিকা গোমা জলকে বসনে তো হীরা কণিকা জয় জয় গোমা জলকে বসনে তো হীরা কণিকা জয় জয় গহ দীপ দহ দহ অঙ্গ মহ মহ বাসই গোমাক্ষণকে তিনি ভুবনে ভ্রমু তুহি জয় 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 জয়
Gija gina gindi jan. Gini gija gina gindi jan. Kitita, kitita, kitikita, kida, kitita.
रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि द्विषो जहि
रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि
रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि द्विषो जहि
रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि रूपं देहि जयं देहि जसो देहि दिशो जहि
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Devi Rising. We would like to felicitate the artists, and to do the honors, may I request Mr. Tim Curtis and Mr. Eric Falt to come to the stage, please, and also Ms. Lily Pandya. Kindly come to the stage, please. I'll introduce the cast to you. Ms. Sharmila Biswas, the concept, choreography, stage and costume design, collection of traditional rhythms, chanting of songs to create the music has been done by her. Srimati Sharmila Biswas. The lead dancers, Monami Nandi, and Krishnendu Saha. The lead voice, Srijan Chatterjee. The voice chorus, I'd like to introduce the entire cast. The voice chorus, Roop Das and Raj Das. Rhythm, Somnath Roy, Chandrasekhar Dubey, Shashank Shekhar Dubey. The light design, Sandeep Datta. I think he's somewhere at the back. Performers on stage, Rahul Dey, Chandan Roy, come Dada. Kaushik Das. Yeah, one by one, we'll invite everybody. That was Sandeep Datta who did the light design. And the artists on stage, drummers, Rahul Dey, Chandan Roy. Kaushik Das. Saptadeep Roy. Deep Joy Shorkar. Shubhankar Das. Topon Das. And Tamal Das. The supporting dancers, Lopamudra Roy Chaudhary, Shanga Shaptaka Day, Trishita Mukherjee, and the narrator, Gauri Basu. Gauri Basu, take a bow, please. Come. And now may we please have a group photograph. A big round of applause for our artists and for Devi Rising. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will present an ICH film in just a few moments. We just need to change the setup.
যখন প্রেস করার জন্য তোমার কুইক ফিল আছে হ্যাঁ ওটা বাবা থেকে কোঅর্ডিনেট করে নিয়ে পড়ে আরামসে হ্যাঁ ইয়ার ও কি नहीं अभी नहीं जी आदित्य अंकल
Ladies and gentlemen, from the Sanskrit theatre tradition of Kudiyattam to the worship of the feminine divine Shakti or Durga, these diverse expressions of India have been very well manifested in the 14 elements inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, while many more have been documented in its national inventories. We now present a short film on the ICH of India, diverse expressions of intangible India.
It's not a film by her, it's a film by you. That's when the chairs and everything will be very different. Yeah, yeah, they'll be speaking this very good. Right now, they're doing a film. How long is this? I don't think it should take more than 9 to 10 minutes. So, what's in your city? How much minutes? How much time? Should we take it? Yeah, it's from 3:06 to 3:30.
India showcases an incredible diversity of intangible cultural heritage with more than 5,000 years of continuously living civilizational history, and as home to a multitude of communities who originated or settled in India in various periods. With the mutual coexistence of several religions, ethnicities, art forms, architectural styles, music and dance traditions, and linguistic practices, India signifies unity in diversity in a way that is perhaps unparalleled in the world. The ideas, practices, beliefs, and values passed on from one generation to the next provide the foundation for the continuity and enhancement of these elements. India has played a critical role in the ICH sector for UNESCO even before the formulation of the 2003 Convention. Since 1983, India has contributed to matters on the protection of folklore through intellectual property. It was one of the earliest signatories to the convention and also actively encouraged the other member states to ratify it. Since the ratification of the convention in 2005, India has actively participated as a committee member for 2 terms between 2006 to 2010 and 2014 to 2018. After the stipulated 4 years gap, India is now positioning proactively to contribute once again in strengthening the implementation of the convention. India shows a great commitment to the convention and ranks high in the listing of intangible cultural heritage. 14 elements from India have been inscribed on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. A large number of these elements showcase a global spread as a testimony to India's cultural exchanges with other countries. Yoga, an ancient Indian practice for the mind and body, is adopted around the world by young and the old without discriminating against gender, class, or religion. The global appreciation received by yoga, Ayurveda, and India's traditional culinary knowledge testifies to the influence of India's intangible heritage on the well being of people and societies. Ram Leela, a traditional performance of the Ramayana epic, is performed in localized contexts in several countries across Asia. Navroz, a multi appreciation received by yoga, Ayurveda, and India's traditional culinary knowledge testifies to the influence of India's intangible heritage on the well being of people and societies. Ram Leela, a traditional performance of the Ramayana epic, is performed in localized contexts in several countries across Asia. Navroz, a multinational inscription from many countries in Asia, marks the start of a new year and contributes to building solidarity and peace among communities. The Kumbh Mela is the largest peaceful congregation of pilgrims on earth, during which participants bathe or take a dip in a sacred river. Inscriptions such as the Thatheras of Jandiala Guru in Punjab not only showcase examples of local crafts, but also address socio-economic needs of rural artisans. This is a mere glimpse of the golden repository of India's intangible cultural heritage. Besides these, several other significant elements covering dance forms, rituals, and crafts are recognized in the UNESCO list, and many more on its national list.
In addition to its thousands of incredible monuments, India holds an amazing treasure trove of intangible cultural heritage. Because of the size of the country and its diversity, it truly stands in a category of its own. Nowhere else in the world can you find so many proud traditions, whether it is in the performing arts, theater, dance, music, in terms of social practices and festivals, and, of course, arts and crafts. I often say that its living heritage represents a true gold mine for India.
India has formulated a clear vision and roadmap for ICH, brought together with its various active government organizations in the field. Currently, it has 7 prominent government agencies under the Ministry of Culture working on various aspects of ICH, along with financial incentives for the ICH knowledge bearers. They also receive collaboration and support from other ministries, such as the Ministry of Textile and Handicrafts and the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. India follows an exhaustive process for updating its inventories of intangible cultural heritage, involving stakeholders' consultations at all levels. It also undertakes regular education and awareness raising programs for effective transmission of traditional knowledge. India has a rich resource for ICH research through its various institutions under the Ministry of Culture, as well as several universities under the Ministry of Education. The National Education Policy 2020 further includes a clause for inclusion of liberal arts with all disciplines, thus encouraging more institutional collaborations for ICH. India showcases its living heritage through a strong network of various stakeholders, including institutions, non government organizations, groups, individuals, researchers, and scholars. India has 7 UNESCO accredited NGOs, some of which are constantly working towards safeguarding ICH and fostering sustainable development through ICH in South Asia. With this forward looking vision, extensive network of organizations, and vast resources for ICH, India is fully prepared to contribute to the objectives of the Convention and encouraging more enabling environments for its implementation.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request one of our ICH experts, Ms. Ritu Sethi, to give her presentation. Ms. Sethi is the chairperson of the Craft Revival Trust and the managing editor of Asia Inch, the principal online encyclopedia on the intangible cultural heritage of traditional arts, crafts, textiles, and its practitioners in South Asia. Ms. Sethi will be speaking on India and its intangible cultural heritage.
Honored guests from UNESCO, Lily Pandya, colleagues from the Ministry of Culture, Sangeet Natak Akademi, and friends and fellow travelers from the ICH world. Until the 2003 convention, the term ICH was almost unknown globally. Yet it is today recognized as a valuable and integral part of the discourse on cultural heritage. The convention, for which India was an early signatory, has worked towards highlighting the safeguarding of a living people's heritage. We in India have been cognizant of these values and have paid great attention to living heritage ever since our independence. Nothing underlines it more than where we meet today, in this wonderful oasis where we see aspects of India's culture. But I would like to draw your attention to the fact that what we see in the National Museum galleries, from miniature arts, the cast bronzes, the jewelry, the Buddhist arts, the paintings, textile repositories, the pottery, and the many, many other themes all continue to be the living ICH of the peoples and the communities of this country, connected to their everyday, to their rituals, to performances, events, and to nature and universe. And surrounded in this 3-kilometer radius, and indeed across the country, there are other institutions set up right from the 1950s onwards that are dedicated to ICH. In fact, much before the word ICH was even coined. In fact, across India, organizations, communities, and individuals have worked tirelessly over the decades towards safeguarding of this lived intangible heritage. Having said this, as we emerge from the shadow of COVID-19, I think we need to redouble our efforts as individuals, communities, civil societies, governments, and international agencies to safeguard this incredible inheritance. And I hope on this day and in our 75th year of independence, as we are all gathered here, I hope we can take this opportunity to rededicate ourselves to this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to let the audience know that after the program is over, we will have a small press conference for the media personnel here. You can ask your questions to all our experts. But before that, we have a couple of speeches. I first would like to invite Professor Manvi Seth to make her presentation. Professor Manvi Seth is professor and head in the Department of Museology, National Museum Institute. She will be speaking on ICH challenges and future prospects.
Namaskar, dignitaries from the Ministry of Culture and UNESCO, experts and scholars of ICH, colleagues from National Museum, Sangeet Natak Academy, and National Museum Institute, dear students and PhD scholars from National Museum Institute who have gathered here in large number, greetings to all of you present here to participate in this capacity building workshop on ICH. In Prague this week, on 24th August, the Extraordinary General Assembly of the International Council of Museums, ICOM, has approved the proposal for the new museum definition. Following the adoption, the new ICOM definition is, I quote, a museum is a not-for-profit permanent institution in the service of society that researches, collects, conserves, interprets, and exhibits tangible and intangible heritage. The definition goes on, but it is in 2007 that the world saw the inclusion of intangible cultural heritage in the definition of museums. ICOM, established in 1946-47, is a global organization for museums. The museum definition given by ICOM has repeatedly been revised through a democratic process in an effort to keep museums relevant to the changing needs of society. The newly adopted definition not only retains ICH, but is expanded, the definition itself, to incorporate and imbibe the values attached to ICH. Mandate of museums has been redefined by the 2003 Convention on ICH to include ICH in all its functions and formats of documentation. And the process of archiving of cultural heritage has been changed forever. UNESCO Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, brought in 2003, has changed and challenged the field of museology and perceived functions of museums ever since. ICH resides with people. There is a growing realization, self-consciousness among the people all over the world of the need to preserve cultural heritage alongside balancing the pressures of modern needs. Museums and professionals working in the museums, they have a clear set of standards, rules, guidelines on how to document, manage, incorporate, and exhibit tangible collections. For ICH to be fully incorporated, documented, represented, and exhibited in museums, the road is just being laid. The challenge is summarized by Nicholas Croft of the Olympic Foundation for Culture and Heritage. I quote, there is a clear risk if ICH is squeezed into the material heritage paradigm and transformed from living tradition into assets that can be collected, documented, and exploited, unquote. Culture is lived and sustained by people. Manifestations of culture in forms of material cultural heritage and the intangible cultural heritage needs more capacity, more participatory approach and space. Museum world needs to experiment more than ever with community-oriented, community-led, inclusive musealization projects. Focus should be to document, conserve, research, understand, and represent ICH and objects as comprehensively as possible with the context, living links, and ties intact. Richard Kurian, Director for Folk Life and Cultural Heritage, Smithsonian Institution, sums up the issue as, museums are generally poor institutions for safeguarding ICH, but there is probably no better institution to do so. It is in this context of changing pattern, framework and dynamics of museum collection, community, and the need to incorporate ICH that I present before you the summary of the research project on ICH done by the Department of Museology, National Museum Institute. National Museum Institute, NMI, is a deemed to be university established in 1989 for the study of history of art, conservation, and museology at master's and doctoral level. The Department of Museology is aimed towards exploring and researching contemporary issues of museology and related fields and create academic resources for students, researchers, and professionals in the field. Museology as a discipline is as multifaceted and interdisciplinary as its fields. The museum. It becomes a responsibility of the discipline to define the future of museums, its ever-changing relevance, and its relationship with the society and people, and now to guide museums how to incorporate ICH in their functions. Since 2012, the Department of Museology NMI is working on the documentation of ICH in the regions of Uttar Pradesh and Ladakh in India. The department has been working with the people, professionals, and community of these two regions for developing the inventory of ICH and is working towards imparting training and conducting research on ICH. The purpose of the project has been to explore the range and nature of ICH in the Indian context, test their formats, forms, and domains, and list the ICH elements of these two regions as models for other such studies. The documentation of ICH is being done as per the 5 ICH domains set up by UNESCO. The consideration used are the context of creation, intended or original use of cultural heritage resources by the society or community. Ladakh, a union territory of India, is one of the highest inhabited places on earth and one of the most unique landscapes in the world with an equally unique culture. Such regions and cultures are to be studied, documented, and data and results are to be used for evolving community-based methodologies. The effort of this academic study has been to study and understand the process of documentation of ICH through community participation. For the purpose of documentation, ICH of Ladakh, NMI has an MOU with Central Institute of Buddhist Studies, Choglamsar, Ladakh. NMI also has an office of Ladakh Studies Research Center in CIBS. The Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council has been a constant partner in all its activities. Cultural heritage elements documented so far are Losar, the New Year festival, stone carving of money wall, the socio-cultural life of nomads, relevance of nomadic tent, weaving, traditional doll making, traditional storytelling, traditional music, traditional shoemaking. ICH of traditional architecture, traditional agricultural practices and associated rituals, Buddhist chanting, and the festival of Nowruz, and some more. The documentation has been done through field data collection, discussion through community workshops, and training. The project has so far resulted in one exhibition, an international exhibition, one international seminar, 3 capacity building programs, 4 films, publications, and workshops. And now, this year, for the first time, a community museum of Ladakh has been set up in Gyasasoma village as a result of this project. At some point along the documentation of ICH, people of various villages in Ladakh started bringing out traditional objects. For them, the objects are part of the larger whole of living heritage and ICH. People of Gyasasoma village and the nomadic community in the Kargyam region have been one of the first to express desire for a small museum in their respective village and settlement. They realize that the heritage, natural and cultural, of the region is unique. The community envisage a platform not merely for preserving physical collections, but for connecting the younger generation with their own identity, for stimulating dialogue on present issues concerning nature and culture, for providing a mechanism for understanding, channelizing the future course of cultural change. Substantial compilation and listing of material heritage, architecture, and ICH, and presence of potential collection led to the idea of setting up of the community museum at Gyasasoma village. It's a deconstructed notion of how a museum should be by a people, majority of whom have never seen a museum. The first community museum at Gyasasoma was inaugurated this year on 3rd April 2022. The community museum has been set up in collaboration between National Museum Institute, Women Alliance Sasoma, Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, Leh. The entire collection of the museum at Gyasasoma is donated by villagers, and the house in which this museum is set up also belongs to the villagers. Showcase in the museum are traditional utility items, textiles, and dresses, antiquities from everyday life of Gyasasoma. The museum also displays and interprets the Ladakhi house, its various architectural spaces and features, and the use of each of these in the Ladakhi life. ICH of Gyasasoma is showcased through audiovisual mediums in the museum. The films from ICH playing in the museum are about the villagers and their culture. These films have been made by their participation. It's about them and it's for them. It's very interesting to see that the ICH here has become a catalyst for the community to grasp and approach the tangible collection and the idea of museum and archives. The whole process followed in the museum world by professionals and academicians got reversed here. For the community, it is in the context of ICH that the objects, the collection found new meaning as heritage objects. For them, museum or archives is an abstract idea, but the concrete is the ICH. It is through ICH they approached the idea of the museum and succeeded. I end my talk by quoting Suleiman Haji, Director of National Center for Prehistoric Anthropological and Historic Research, Algeria. And this convention, the ICH convention, has created a climate between communities, between society and practitioners, a climate of harmony, of mutual support and consultation in order to inventory and preserve the intangible cultural heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Seth. May we now request our special guest, Dr. Tim Curtis, to address the audience. Dr. Tim Curtis is the Secretary of UNESCO's 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage and the Chief of the Living Heritage Entity of UNESCO. He has been working in the field of culture in international contexts for over 20 years, firstly as a cultural anthropologist, and then for UNESCO on numerous international programs related to culture in the fields of heritage, cultural industries, cultural policies, and culture and development. He was appointed to his current position as Secretary of the 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage in January 2016. Dr. Tim Curtis.
Thank you very much. Lily, thank you for the invitation. It's really a great honor, but also a pleasure for me to be here on behalf of UNESCO today on this very special occasion. And of course, to commemorate the inscription of Durga Puja last December, early last December, during the committee. I'd like to give a short talk today to talk about some of the latest developments in the 2003 convention, or the ICH convention, since we've heard a bit about it, and in particular because, as has been mentioned, India has also just been elected to become a committee member and will therefore be in a position to shape over the next 4 years in an important period in the life of the convention. I'm just going to try to master this, but I'm not sure. 1 minute. I need to quit. This one. Okay, as I think has been mentioned and for which UNESCO is highly appreciative, India has played a very important role in the development and the implementation of this convention since its inception. It ratified the convention in September 2005, which makes it one of the early countries to actually ratify the convention, and has 14 elements inscribed on the representative list, as we've mentioned, and has just been elected for its third mandate as a committee member, so that makes it a very engaged country. In fact, from 2006 was the first committees when the convention just entered into force. We call it the 2003, but it needed about 30 countries to ratify before it entered into force. So that first the first committee sessions, India was already present as a member. I think I don't need to explain to you the Indian elements on the list. 14 elements is a very high number. And of course, starting with the Ramlila and Vedic chanting and Kutyatam in 2008, all the way through now to Durga Puja in 2021. The latest element, Durga Puja in Kolkata, was inscribed, as I said, in 2021 at the 16th session of the committee. If you look at the decision, it's commended in one particular aspect. The way the nomination was drafted was its inclusive approach to the safeguarding measures. And I think what was appreciated by the evaluation body was the work that was done to really reach out to this in this very broad expression, very broad festival, to all different parties and to include them in the proposed measures for safeguarding. So that's just something to bear in mind. It was particularly commended for that aspect in the file. Now I'd like to go on a little bit about these latest developments and what they might mean. The convention itself is a kind of, it evolves. It's coming up next year. In 2023 will be the 20th anniversary of this convention. It now has 180 states parties, which makes it almost universal. And I believe it's one of the fastest ever ratified UN conventions in that sense. So clearly this idea of intangible cultural heritage means a lot to a lot of people all over the world. And I think it's the testimony to that is the speed at which countries have ratified the convention. But of course, the convention is adopting and learning as we go along. So we just had the 9th session of the General Assembly, which was the session in which India was elected for the next 4 years, and some important revisions to the operational directives. And those revisions are really related to a 2 or 3 year process we did on the listing mechanisms to see, there was an intergovernmental working group, this was funded by Japan, and with an inclusive and broad-based reflection on how to perhaps improve, review, refine, learn on the whole listing mechanisms of the convention. There was some discussion whether criteria should be changed. So in the end, all the criteria have been maintained, except one criteria in the register. I won't get into the details here. But there's a wish to simplify the forms, maybe make it a little bit, let's say, a little bit less technocratic or bureaucratic and more like living heritage, if I may. And some other interesting things to make it more inclusive. For example, UNESCO will now accept files in the languages of the practitioners. Of course, we will still need an English or French version so that the evaluation process can go on, but we will put on the website if a country wishes to submit in the language of those who practice the ICH, so that those who practice it are able to understand the file, how it was presented, and so on. So there's a number of changes like that with a view to making the forms lighter. And overall, what was the principle of a lot of these reforms is trying to put the communities more at the center of the process. As I think was mentioned earlier, communities are at the core of the living heritage. We also talked about the new directives make it easier to transfer elements between representative lists, urgent safeguarding lists, and how to remove them, but also easier to extend elements to include communities in other countries. I think one of the examples we saw earlier was Nauruz, for which India is a member with about 20 countries, or 18 or 19 countries. So now the convention is going to make it easier if you wish to join in with other countries and trying to foster also exchanges among communities. And then finally, it led to a new period of reflection we're going to have, which sounds very technical here, new reflection to be initiated on the broader implementation of Article 18. And that is going to start now in this period. And Article 18 is the article that talks about sharing good safeguarding practices and the best practices and how to foster exchanges. And so during all of this reflection, it was felt that the article doesn't necessarily see it's only one register of good safeguarding practices as exists now. So Sweden has generously offered to finance a reflection process that will go on for the next few years to think about broader ways of connecting communities, connecting practitioners, connecting individuals so as to share, so that UNESCO can facilitate this interchange, both maybe digitally, maybe in person, and how to make that aspect of the convention more robust, more dynamic, and up to date. So that will be the next phase, and this is something, obviously, as committee members, India will be fully engaged with. Another thing that's become more and more obvious and, well, that's become more and more recognized, perhaps I would say, is the role of living heritage or intangible cultural heritage in achieving sustainable development goals. First of all, living heritage and formal and non-formal education is something the convention has been working on for 4 years. Clearly, if safeguarding living heritage involves transmitting the knowledge to the next generation, then education becomes central to all of that. So this is an area that's been going on, but other areas where the convention has taken a much bigger role is looking at, for instance, living heritage in emergencies, how can communities draw on their knowledge and practices within situations of emergencies, the issue of living heritage, gender, livelihoods, climate change, and also I'll talk a little bit about intangible cultural heritage in urban contexts. So these are the thematic initiatives that are now being discussed at the international level, and which India will clearly have a very important role and many contributions to make. Commercialization, so how to ensure that commercialization can directly support the viability of endangered intangible heritage and protecting livelihoods, that the practitioners themselves, that many of these practices can continue, that they can be economically viable, and we'll be working with the committee to develop guidance notes on that for adoption. As I said, living heritage in cities in a period when communities around the world are moving, rural to urban migration is a big issue, and also in India. How does living heritage get safeguarded in those contexts? We know many times people are going and coming between towns and cities, but also how can the urban planning so far has only tended to think of monuments and sites, but what about big spaces for festivals, big spaces for all forms of intangible cultural heritage? So all of these discussions are going on. They will be happening at the committee, and policies will be done. We've had a big pilot project to test this living heritage in cities, and these are some of the countries and cities where we've done it. So again, I think this is a theme for which India has a lot to offer. Perhaps before winding up, just to let you know, the convention has completely changed its periodic reporting progress system. It used to be a country had to report every 6 years after it ratified. It's now gone to region by region, and the modality and the way of reporting has changed immensely. And I think the point of the reporting is not necessarily only that you sort of report to UNESCO, but it gives an opportunity for a country to take stock of where it's at in its policies and programs and to set goals for the next 6 years. So at the moment, we are in 2022 with the Arab region, next year Africa, and we will start preparing for Asia Pacific, including India in 2024. And that's quite a large program, and it's a lot of work with this new system, and the first time, so UNESCO will be working with countries to see how to get this new reporting system underway. But again, the reporting system is also an important opportunity to take stock for a country of its own policies. So, as I said, we're just elected now at the General Assembly, very active. India has been incredibly active in the committee, and we are very grateful for that. And we took note of the statement made by the Indian delegation upon election, that India's goals for the next 4 years will be fostering community participation, strengthening international cooperation through intangible cultural heritage, and I think India can also help other countries in intangible cultural heritage safeguarding, promoting academic research and aligning the work of the convention with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I think it's going to be a very exciting period ahead. Lots of things are happening in this convention, and we look very much forward to a strong input and engagement from India. So the next one, who knows? I can't say now. I'm not in a position to say what will or will not be inscribed. It goes to a separate evaluation body. There are 12 experts, 12 civil NGOs, 6 NGOs and 6 appointed experts, one from each of the UNESCO regions, so it's very balanced. And these are the people who collectively read all the nomination files and make a recommendation for the committee, who then either decides to inscribe or not. The file at this moment has I think we've just sent a letter on the technical completeness. We in the Secretariat, we check everything on the technical completeness. I think there's been an exchange. This is the normal process, and it will be examined by the evaluation body in the middle of next year and presented for inscription but to the committee at the end of next year. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's again a great honor and a pleasure for me to be here. And I think, as has been said also by Eric, the director of our office, India has so much ICH. India is incredible when it comes to the vast, the breadth and diversity of the living heritage. And as that stage, in that position, also has a really important role to play in UNESCO, important for India, but also important for other countries, important for the world, and the contribution to our understanding of this vital part of our being and of our existence, which is now much better recognized as a part of cultural heritage, what we call living heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you very much for the time you've given me.
Please don't go away.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to felicitate Dr. Curtis as well as Mr. Eric Falt. And to do the honors, I request Ms. Lily Pandya to come to the dais, please. We have a very special gift for you.
I'm sure I won't forget you anyway.
Well, we'll ensure that you don't. So, this is for you. Which has your name? And this is for.
This is an image of the goddess Durga. And this is Dokra art, which is special for this occasion.
Thank you, sir. Now we shall have a little press conference.
Okay,
So we'll
wonderful.
set up a table. Please announce.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have a small press conference, but for that we need to set up the stage once again, so kindly bear with us in another 2-3 minutes.
कैसा लगा सी पोजीशन लगाना है सीधी लगानी है स्ट्रेट सीधी का लिया कुर्सी भी लिया दोनों इधर लगा चार पर गैप गैप में और एक यार क्या कर रहे हो तुम अरे नहीं चार बोला नाम Okay, good. Yeah, mics are all online.
Okay. Oh, is there a mic?
Yeah,
Check here.
well, busy. It's a quite a busy job.
Especially with this hybrid life.
Yeah,
Not only are you on Zoom or online, but you work with
exactly.
your
So I would now request our friends from the media to ask all the dignitaries on the stage the questions that they would like to ask. Yes, please start already. Somebody can give him the mic? Yes.
Wait, I think they're giving you. Now they're giving you one.
Yes, sir. This is for Mr. Fault. So, what will be the next UNESCO heritage site after the Simla heritage? There is not a single site has been recognized as a World Heritage Site. Can we expect any further site to be recognized as World Heritage Site?
You're talking about World Heritage Site.
Yes, sir.
It's a little bit outside of the topic for today, but I'm happy to try an answer. What is your question exactly?
Question is that after Simla heritage line, railway line, not a single heritage has been listed as UNESCO's World Heritage Site.
I'm not sure I understand. I mean, every year, India, like any other country, has the possibility to nominate a site and get one site inscribed. So this process is going on. As you know, the session of the World Heritage Committee this year has currently been suspended, so we don't know exactly when it will happen. But with a little bit of luck, if all the stars are aligned, India would have a chance to get one more site, World Heritage Site. Currently, India has 40. So let's wait and see. That's the best answer I can give you.
So kindly give us your name.
Ma'am, Saurabh from ANI. Ma'am, can you just elaborate upon capacity building exercise workshop? What is it exactly? It is.
So I would request Manvi Sage to answer that question.
So the capacity building workshop is to tell the professionals, to train the professionals and also the academicians and students how dossiers are prepared, what are the domains of ICH. The entire government of ICH is very large, and even to deconstruct the definition, to take it apart, and how this can be incorporated in museums, how museum functions can start incorporating ICH, reflecting ICH. We want to do it over the next 1 year. This workshop is the start of it. So tomorrow there'll be students, there'll be PhD scholars, there'll be academicians who will take part in this workshop, and they will do it in a manner where there is theoretical discourse, but then there will be an activity also, which tells them how to exactly do it. You know, it's easier said than done. So this is about the capacity building workshop.
Ma'am, my next question is to sir. Yeah, UNESCO team will be visiting Kolkata on September 1st. Can you just brief us about the visit?
Yes, I think it's we are here in the context, in part of the Durga Puja celebrations. That's why Tim Curtis is visiting, and we wanted first of all to make sure that we would be here celebrating with you. That's why we responded immediately and positively to the kind invitation of the Ministry of Culture. Again, you have to understand that UNESCO is first and foremost an intergovernmental organization. All of the, and that I'm sure that will be one of the things discussed in the workshop, because sometimes it's not obvious to many of the stakeholders. Any nomination has to be channeled through the central government. So the inscription of Durga Puja happened after it was channeled through the central government, and we're very happy and proud to be with you today to honor this inscription. And then we have been invited, Tim and I, to represent UNESCO for celebrations that will take place in Calcutta on the 1st of September. There have already been a number of more informal celebrations, but quite clearly, locally, there's extraordinary enthusiasm around the inscription, and we'll be happy to be there locally with the people of West Bengal and Calcutta to celebrate also this inscription. Thank you.
Durga Puja in Kolkata. I fail to understand Durga Puja in Kolkata or Durga Puja in Bengal. Before partition, the entire Bengal was celebrating in the Durga Puja. Today also. So, could you just clarify what is the correct Durga Puja in Kolkata and Durga Puja in Bengal?
So every time an element is nominated.
And Durga Puja in Kolkata, it is a highly decorated, colorful puja. There is no link with the other parts of the Bengal.
So every time an element is nominated, we present a dossier to UNESCO, and that dossier talks about specifics of the nomination. So we had specifically nominated Durga Puja of Kolkata, which is why it is Durga Puja of Kolkata. Like Mr. Curtis said in his penultimate slide, Garba of Gujarat. So in that vein, it has nothing to do with,
I'm not talking about the nothing in Garba and all that. What I'm saying, entire Durga Puja is it is performing in the Bengal, other parts of the Bengal, and this part of the
Durga
Bengal.
Puja, sir, is
So
performed
there is,
all over the country.
all,
In some parts,
I'm coming to the all over. I'm just asking you, the celebrating the Kolkata. It is correct, or it is the Bengal is correct?
so Durga Puja, in some form or the other, is celebrated throughout the country. Like it is Navaratras in Gujarat. Okay, in South, it is celebrated in some other way. It is Dashehra in many of the northern parts of the country. No, no, no. Please let me answer. So it is incidental that the element got nominated as Durga Puja of Kolkata, which is why this term comes up on the screen and which is why we are celebrating the inscription of Durga Puja of Kolkata. It is not to take away from the fact that Durga Puja is one of the most revered festivals which is celebrated under different names in almost every part of this country and also the neighborhood. Thank you.
मैडम एक सवाल है मेरा रविकांत हूँ एबीपी न्यूज से ये जो इंस्क्रिप्शन हुआ है इसके बाद दुर्गा पूजा को प्रमोट करने के लिए क्या कुछ किया जाएगा?
एक बार जब इंस्क्रिप्शन होता है तो उसमें जो प्रोसेसेस इन्वॉल्व रहते हैं, जो सेफगार्डिंग मेजर्स वगैरह होता है, इंस्क्रिप्शन की प्रक्रिया के द्वारा वो सब सबके सामने आता है. तो उसको हाईलाइट कैसे किया जाए, उसको सेलिब्रेट कैसे किया जाए, इसकी कवायद हर तरीके से होती है. और इस जैसे ये वर्कशॉप हो रहा है, इसमें हम लोग ये देखेंगे कि क्या ऐसी खूबियां थी इस फेस्टिवल के अंदर या क्या हम लोगों ने उजागर की जिसकी वजह से इसका इंस्क्रिप्शन हुआ. सो इन अ वे इट इज retelling the story of Durga Puja and also the aspects of Durga Puja that merited this inscription. So it gives it the kind of prominence that it requires. It puts it, gives it the limelight and therefore attracts all kinds of, community participation, state participation in safeguarding it and also in propagating it as intangible cultural heritage.
Are you with the media? Are you with the media? If you can also introduce yourself on the media you're associated with,
My
it
name
would
is
really
Rekha
help all
Dixit,
of us.
and I'm
Thank
from
you.
the Week magazine. The gentleman here had a very valid question. When you're talking about the chanting, you're talking about chanting in Ladakh as a larger region. We're talking about Gujarat. We're talking about an entire state. I mean, I can understand, the culture changing from state to state. But specifically, why has this been inscribed as the Durga Puja of Kolkata and not, say, West Bengal? Why not the state? That is the question.
It is purely incidental.
No, what
It
is
is
the
how
incident?
this is how we titled the dossier.
Why?
We can go into
It becomes
it. We can
very
look at the-
urban. But that was the question, because we are talking about Gujarat as a Garba. So we're talking about the entire state.
I don't think there is any, great reason to it. This is how it is. It is, like I told you, purely incidental. We can go into 2 years, 3 years ago when the element was nominated. We can go into the logic of why it was done back in the day. But in and of itself, it is incidental. It's just the title. So at that time, in their wisdom, it was decided. The competent authority would have decided that, it should be titled so. But Durga Puja is the significance of this inscription is the celebration of Durga Puja itself, is the recognition of Durga Puja itself in the representative list of humanity.
मैं संगीत नाटक अकादमी से हूँ और इस पर मैं थोड़ा सी रोशनी डालना चाहूँगा कि जब हम मैं सुमन कुमार हाँ 300 साल पुराना है, 400 साल पुराना है, और भी पुराना है। हाँ, कृतिदास रामायण जो है उससे भी रिलेटेड है। ठीक है, तो दुर्गा पूजा और आदिकाल से दुर्गा की आराधना होती रही है। तो इसमें कोलकाता क्यों? क्योंकि आप जब इसको देखेंगे, आईसीएच के सेक्टर को देखेंगे, तो इसमें जो 5 एलिमेंट हैं या विविध आयाम हैं, उसमें सस्टेनेबिलिटी भी है। उसमें कैसे एक एलिमेंट जो है हमारे सोसाइटी को जोड़ता है, मासेस को जोड़ता है, और उसके लिए एक कहें तो मार्केट भी तैयार करता है। कैसे वो लोगों को एक्सप्रेशन करने के लिए या वैसी जगह प्रोवाइड करता है, अपने आर्टिस्टिक जो पार्ट है उसको भी डिस्प्ले करने के लिए खूब सारे मौके बनाता है। दुर्गा पूजा देश में हर जगह होता है, लेकिन कहीं एक कम्युनिटी के रूप में सिर्फ होता है और वो थोड़ी सी वाइब्रेशन करके खत्म हो जाता है। लेकिन दुर्गा पूजा जब कोलकाता में होता है तो वो पूरा विश्व देखता है। यू एग्री विद मी? क्योंकि दुर्गा पूजा के वक्त पर एक एक पंडाल जो सजता है, एक एक गली जो सजता है, एक एक मोहल्ला जो सजता है, उसमें हम सब कुछ भूल जाते हैं कि कौन किस जात का है, कौन किस मजहब का है, कौन, लेकिन सब पूरा प्रदेश, पूरा देश उस वक्त मना रहा होता है। लेकिन कोलकाता में खास बात होती है, जैसे त्रिपुरा में भी आप देखें खास बात होती है उस, हाँ, इसीलिए ऐसा महसूस किया कि हम जो चाहते हैं कि हमारा एलिमेंट, जो एक एक एलिमेंट है, वो हम मैटर करे आने वाले भविष्य में, इस तरह सेलिब्रेट हो कि वो हमारी जीविका का साधन बन जाए। आप नहीं चाहेंगे तो ऐसा कोलकाता में दिखता है कि वहां जाकर के कितने सारे लोग दुर्गा पूजा के वक्त में गांव से आकर के वहां जिंदा रहने, साल भर जिंदा रहने का रोजगार पा लेते हैं। इसीलिए ध्यान गया कि कोलकाता में वो सारे मैंने चीजें हैं जिसको हमें दूसरी जगह भी होना चाहिए। और ये हम नहीं कह रहे हैं कि कोलकाता कहने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ दुर्गा पूजा कोलकाता की, लेकिन एक रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है, एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव होता है कुछ जो बंगाल को रिप्रेजेंट करता है। तो हम बंगाल के लिए कहाँ मुंह खोलेंगे, दरवाजा कहाँ से खुलेगा? इट इज द ओपनिंग गेट ऑफ दुर्गा पूजा फ्रॉम कोलकाता, क्योंकि वो सबसे ग्लोरीफाइड है। उसने पूरी दुनिया को दिखा दिया है कि यहाँ दुर्गा पूजा इस तरह से होती है। हम अपने कल्चर एलिमेंट को, वी शुड recognize our cultural element because it is connected to our identity, it is connected to our future, it is connected to our generations. So things should be like that, it has to raise up like that. So इसलिए कलकत्ता को एक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव के रूप में रखा गया है। ये मत कहिए कि सिर्फ कोलकाता को ही रिकॉग्नाइज किया है, यहाँ दुर्गा को रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया है, जो कोलकाता के जरिए पूरे विश्व में पहुंच रहे हैं। Thank you. I think that you have got that.
So this way, sir. So good evening. My name is Sanjay Agarwal, and I represent World News 24/7. So my question is to Mr. Tim. When you're talking about UNESCO, it's a larger, it's worldwide. So when you're talking about any festivals per se, so are you going to showcase them across the world like now at this festival time when it's happening across in India?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by showcase in that sense of I don't necessarily go.
We have a lot of Indian diaspora there, so they'll also be happy, like you're good to
No, absolutely. I mean, we give prominence to all the elements that are listed on our lists, and so and we're working with the countries. Obviously, we don't do it directly. We work with the countries to do events and to showcase them. The whole point, in a way, of putting them on this list, on this representative list, is to raise the awareness, raise the consciousness, raise the understanding of the importance of all of these elements. And we do as much as we can, working with our member states, countries who run a lot of the programs to try to foster events, awareness in the country, but also outside the country. And I think it's very important in the context of UNESCO that this heritage is shared in a wider sense. So yes, and we have our websites, we have events, and sometimes in Paris or elsewhere. So Yes, absolutely.
Hello, sir. Myself Nishi. I am asking to you on the behalf of Hindustan News Agency. I just want to ask you that UNESCO is, that universal agency. I just want to know, is there any possibilities or is there any things to be like that? Ki Durga Puja now can be happening all over the country, and some of the countries are more interested to conduct that festival in their own country. Like that, many of the festival we already celebrating. Just say Krishna is already global now. So what are the possibilities of behind that? Ki yes, Durga Puja has now been showcased in all over the country, world as well. So
No, I think absolutely. I think there's a great possibility, and we hope to foster exchanges and connections. It is representative when we do the intangible cultural heritage, because we are very aware that intangible cultural heritage happens in myriad forms in different places. It's not always tied to one specific place, and it happens all of this. So I think, as I said, it is a part of the purpose of this convention to foster and facilitate exchanges and recognition and global awareness, if you will, of the importance of not only this one specific festival, but these kinds of festival and how they can be, why they must be safeguarded and transmitted to next generation. So.
Yeah. Perhaps here I can say something that Tim cannot, which is that I feel sometimes that there's too much emphasis on the list. Okay, ICH convention is not just about the list. Let's not be sort of obsessed about the list. It's very important, obviously, and that's why we are here today, to celebrate the latest inscription. And I'm sure that, I hope that in a few months there will be yet another inscription for India. But as I tried to underline earlier, I don't know if you were here, there's so much more to intangible cultural heritage. It's impossible for India to ever inscribe its entire intangible cultural heritage practices. Impossible, because there can only be one every year. So that is why we always encourage, with the Ministry of Culture, with all of the partner institutions, to have as many workshops as possible, as many events as possible, and training, so that people understand the importance of the thousands and thousands of intangible cultural heritage practices around the country, and why they need to be safeguarded and how they can be safeguarded. That's why here from our office in New Delhi, we have tried to multiply the occasions to reach out in different ways. Tim is sort of in a way, the master of the list, and it is very important. But from here, we've worked with other partners. We've worked with the tourism industry. We've worked with a variety of partners. I mentioned the wonderful partnership we just started with Royal Enfield, a surprising partnership to many. And together, we're going to go and try to see how we can better document and ultimately help recognize and safeguard intangible cultural practices, in this case in the Himalayas, beginning with the Northeast. So let's not be too focused on the list, I think, is a very important message.
मैम मेरा एक सवाल इससे जुड़ा हुआ है कि गुजरात के जो गरबा गुजरात के बाद क्या कुछ और भी प्लानिंग है, किसी और भी पूजा को शामिल करने वाले हैं हम, गणेश उत्सव जैसे है क्या इसको?
जैसा कि अभी लोगों ने कहा आपसे कि इंडिया में इतने सारे ICH प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, सिर्फ फेस्टिवल्स और डांस फॉर्म्स ही नहीं हैं, और भी बहुत सारी हमारी कलाएं हैं और बहुत सारे क्राफ्ट ट्रेडिशंस हैं. तो हम लोगों का इन वर्कशॉप्स के ज़रिए यही हमारी इच्छा है कि हम मैक्सिमम कवरेज दें. देखिए, जैसा कि अभी मिस्टर कर्टिस ने कहा और उसके बाद मिस्टर फाल्ट ने कहा, we can nominate only one element per 2 years, right? But the number of elements that we can document and put in our national inventory, the kind of awareness that we can generate through these workshops and by collaborating with myriad stakeholders and a lot of practitioners, people in academics, research, non-governmental organizations, government itself, various ministries. So that is basically to raise awareness, generate awareness, and do the work of documentation of our best practices, best safeguarding practices, क्रिएशन ऑफ डॉसियर्स। तो इस वर्कशॉप के जरिए सारे लोगों को, सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स को इसके बारे में बताया जाएगा, सो दैट मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ एलिमेंट्स आर पुट इन द नेशनल इन्वेंटरी। एक बार ये हमारी तैयारी हो जाती है, then it becomes easier for us. Then perhaps we can make a case with UNESCO that you allow us to nominate 2 elements, 3 elements every year, perhaps. Who knows? It's an evolving convention. So that हमारे और भी बहुत सारे elements को इस तरीके से inscription उनके होने की संभावना बढ़े. Thank you.
Lily, can I add to that? So the questions which were there from the gentleman here and you and then you. See, the listing is only endorsement and recognition from an international body, UNESCO. The responsibility of practicing it lies on the community, and the responsibility of the government of that country is to support the community. So we have to raise awareness. If we have to celebrate it, we have to support the community. If we have to raise awareness about it amongst professionals, we have to do more training. So UNESCO has done it, and we are very happy, and we hope that this really puts a sense of pride in us, and it tells us to document more, as Lily ji has said. We need to create our own pool, our own data, not just one element per year or 2 years, but hundreds. We can do it at national level. Who's stopping us? And when we do this, then the community also, who are leaving practices, who are leaving because of the pressures of modern needs, will get encouragement to practice it. They will only be able to sustain it, So it's a very participatory process where UNESCO recognizes, the government, the administration supports, creates awareness, academic bodies will have to do research, and communities will have to be given a nurturing environment to celebrate these festivals, these traditional practices.
I'm going to add one thing further to what Dr. Manvi has said. And that is that this is such a remarkable country, and we have reiterated it through this entire 2 hours and through what we've seen. We have more than 6 climatic regions. We have a 3,500 sea line. We have huge numbers of peoples, festivals, religions. Can you imagine how much ICH we have? So we should actually, instead of looking at others, we should actually have a citizens' charter, a civil society charter, a charter for all of us, because at the core is the community and the individual whose ICH it is. And it is our responsibility as citizens to safeguard, to document, to highlight ourselves. And how marvelous if it's recognized by UNESCO, but it is a long and slow process. So our national inventory is where we should be really invested in, where we can then put up things literally on a daily basis, and it is safeguarded and contributes to the SDG goals of sustainable development and the future.
And I also would like to add that this is the first workshop, but only first in a series of workshops. So we have decided to have at least 6 throughout the year to just spread awareness about how it is important to add to our national inventory, and how it is important to raise awareness about the various ICH of India. So if that is all that, are there more questions, or shall we conclude today's evening? Because our guests also have other engagements. So thank you very much. I really appreciate all of you who have come here, and I really appreciate all the questions that were asked. Please do stay back and enjoy the stalls. And I think I'm doing your work, so please take over.
I'm always happy when people take over my work. But I'd like to thank you all, Dr. Tim Curtis, Mr. Eric Fald, Ms. Lily Pandya, Ms. Ritu Sethi, and Professor Manvi Seth for being the special guests today and enlightening us with various aspects of ICH. Thank you so much. With that, we conclude this inaugural session of this workshop. But tomorrow is where all the action is. We will interact with artisans, with craftspeople. You will see aspects of Durga Puja like the Dhunuchi Naach and other aspects as well. So I hope to see you all here tomorrow. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience and for asking so many questions. That always keeps an organization going. There's high tea, which is always important in our Indian culture and also after such a long session. Thank you so much and join us outside for high tea. And thank you once again to the guests.
Mm-hmm.